No One Will Save You was a pretty good movie. It was more ethereal and atmospheric than trippy and psychedelic. The basic crux and point of the movie is quite vapid and pointless, and the ending diminishes any validity of the purpose of the film by just being weird and confusing. Why did they make a doppelganger out of her? Clearly there was a purpose to do that, but she killed the clone, so why did they not punish her for that? The clone came from a parasite they intended to put inside of her, so how would that have worked? She'd be reborn as herself. Either there's a flaw or the film is saying that the aliens are there as saviors rather than to harm, which then makes sense for the rest of the film, yet now the first two-thirds of the film make no sense. Because the aliens were definitely just aggressive and ruthless predators who literally tried to harm her. The story starts with her living in a town that shuns her. It's revealed in a forgettable way why they shunned her. It's a good reason to shun her. Yet, they ended up accepting her after her run-in with the aliens, who did nothing to her after all, which means, the very valid reason to shun her was not the reason they were shunning her at all. It seems they shunned her because... Exactly. Why did they shun her? There's a scene where she waved and they did not wave back. By the way, either the movie is intentionally anachronistic and is just Victorian-era and/or 1920s to 1950s inspired. Or, they don't know which era the film takes place at all, whether it's contemporary or not. Either way, I like the whole rockabilly flapper/Victorian thing. It's just a cool time period style-wise, yet it also fits into the whole traditional quaint small-town shunning people for moral reasons thing. Anyway, the big question mark is why they shunned her at first, but now do not shun her. The aliens did not succeed in whatever it was. She spat out the parasite, she killed the clone, she survived the home invasion, she survived the abduction. And they sent her on her way after she time traveled to her past and the reason the town seemingly shunned her. So, the town accepted her back because why? She isn't one of them. They tried to kill her and kidnap her the whole movie. Because she wasn't one of them, a clone with a parasite inside of them. Is it that the aliens gave her a pass? Well, why would they do that? Is it because she is the only person so far in the town who showed remorse about something bad? Well, I mean, she cried tears that should be confusing or meaningless to aliens. Human emotion is something ETs and AIs don't relate to, right? But let's say they think she's a reformed person and let her go, but not the other townspeople. Unless the rest of the town is also full of murderers who don't feel bad or cry about it, what could they have done that's so bad that the aliens won't even forgive them but will forgive her? I doubt they came down and tore up her house and nearly killed her and stalked her just to spook her and let her go after she cried witnessing a memory that got her shunned. The only other theory is that the aliens are theoretical symbols of her past haunting her, and that there were no aliens. Which doesn't fully work because she was physically injured and the house was wrecked due to the aliens on both counts. But let's just say they represented her anxiety or something like a bunch of galactic babadooks. Well, the town still shunned her at first because of her past, and then accepted her overnight, after she had an epiphany or hallucination about her past which she resolved. So, is the film saying, you can do horrible things and the town will shun you, but only because you aren't sorry? They'll still accept you if you kill people etc., as long as you go crazy all night, talk about aliens stalking you, and cry about it. Just dumb. Other than that, it was a great-looking film. Well produced, thrilling even though all the action and special effects and presumably the budget were all much ado about nothing though considering the film was ultimately pointless and mediocrely acted. So really quick wrap up. The film is about a reclusive girl who lives on her own in a small town that looks like the 1800s-ish, and she lives alone because she's rightfully shunned, yet after a long night where she had a near-death run-in with loads of aliens, she survives and they accept her again. 10 stars for film quality, but 2 stars for the story inside of it, and 8 stars to pass the time with an edgy but light thriller. Very rewatchable for the action and cool imagery. Nondescript lead actress. Next up is Ready or Not, the film from 2019, Not the Fugees song. One of the coolest films ever. Very similar to your next All the Way from 2011. Here's a lead female character who runs for her life and we actually know why and can root for her. She's getting married to a rich guy and it's pretty much wrapped up in the first 10 minutes who everyone is. She's basically not on his level or his family's. So we think it's because he's rich and she must not be. But that's not it. Her family is from a long-line cult and you can only marry in with them if you pass their initiation. The lead actress is Grace, and the actress probably wants to be Margot whatever her name. Margot Robbie. And she's marrying Alex, and his actor probably wants to be Tom Hardy. They couldn't get Margot or Tom presumably, so they got pretty cool alternatives. At least that's what springs to my mind when I see them. It's not actual tea, it's just my opinion. Anywho. Grace and him get married and everything. But that's just the beginning. The marriage is not final just yet. Andie MacDowell is her mom-in-law, and this is an interesting return to the screen for her. I personally think this is not too far from what it's like to marry a rich person, that you have to, well, earn your spot in their clique or family by doing something that is interesting. Anyway, there's a raffle what her initiation would be. The worst one is the one she picks, to her husband-to-be's chagrin, but he's not going to help her or stop this or take her away. He's going to hand her over to this potentially fatal process, just for him. It therefore ends up being a sort of feminist movie, that she'd have to die for him and his rich ass and his weird evil family. And if she survives, the prize is him. When she's actually going to just try to survive, for her own ass, which is what happens. Great action. Great cast. Starts off like a Victorian murder mystery party in the cinematography, vocabulary and wardrobe and other elements. This wasn't scary. Very thrilling and maybe a little edgy, but not creepy or scary, in my opinion. But this is coming from someone who laughed watching Human Centipede and ate tacos and snacks watching a Serbian film. But anyway. The whole family has to manhunt Grace and Alex can't help, which is kind of funny. They have to defeat Grace or the family curse of staying rich and powerful, which they see as a blessing, will backfire and kill them at dawn. Grace fights her way throughout and out of the mansion on the family manor estate thingy, with many actual laughs in between. This is a real horror comedy or action comedy. It's not one of those movies that aren't scary nor funny and still labels itself as a horror comedy, which is really just a subtle disclaimer or excuse, hey, we're a horror comedy. We're not supposed to be that thrilling or that funny. This is a mediocre film on both counts, so it falls in between both genres safely. No, this film is literally funny and literally intense. There were scenes where, for instance, she'd be this close to saving herself, but then the car breaks down and she cusses it out. Made me laugh. Normally in movies the actress sobs, but in a way where it's like she's not even mad. Who wouldn't be mad in that case? More laughs than your next and cooler action. Almost the same plot, with surprise backstabber family members who actually want the family to perish and for the in-law damsel to live so that they can kill her later and cash in, from what I remember or understood. Anyway, I found myself rooting for Grace. It's a very rewatchable film. 9 stars all around. I don't want to be thirsty and give it 10 stars. I've only seen it once and who knows, maybe if I watch it again I'll spot some flaws, or maybe my taste has changed since then, but for now, it's the movie I'd reach for if I wanted a light thrill. Wait. Where was I going about to end the review as if the film really is perfect? Firstly, the woman who plays the grandmother matriarch literally looks like a nightmare. Like holy shit. Also, I'm kind of confused though. If Grace survived, they'd die. If she died, Alex needs a new lady. The other issue is that, at first even though Grace thinks they're kidding around, she still agrees to this shit. She's still sitting there goofy and giggling. There are rifles everywhere, they're sitting there straight-faced, creepy looking, the house is dim lit, they lock her in, and she still agrees to it. Also, how do you marry someone who you clearly don't know at all? Sure, fuck his family. You're marrying him, not them, so you don't even need to meet them. But I'm saying, don't you want to know? How do you agree to take on someone else's life when a huge chunk of who they are, which is their background, is a mystery? And when you find out who they are, they're saying you need to get through an initiation. Seems like I'd honestly rather date a guy who works at Burger King. Okay, scratch that. I'd rather be alone. Ha! Literally, the whole family is fucked. Everyone is evil. This isn't something anyone can fix or change without death. There's no redeemable qualities at all with them, except money. Poor Grace. But she kind of did this to herself. Ladies, don't marry a man if you don't fucking know the most basically important things about him.